Inravio.com.
Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson, and you're watching the 5 Off, 5 On Racing Show. Welcome. Hope everybody had a good week. Here in Long Island today, we had one of these freak spring snowstorms. We woke up to like 2 or 3 inches here in the central part of the island, a little bit more on the far east and the far west, but spring is here, and we woke up to snow. It all had melted, at least in my area, by the time I was headed to here, so it's kind of weird, having snow the first day of spring. And because of the weather forecast, there were some tracks that canceled their programs. We'll talk about that a little later, due to a weather forecast. And you're starting to see more and more of that, tracks looking at the weather forecast. And I call it a promoter's rain out, so to speak. The promoter's going to sit there and say, if the forecast isn't good, the people locally are still probably going to show up, but the people who are coming from afar might not. And in today's day and age, with the cost and what it takes to run a show, you can't take that chance to run an event in an empty arena, empty racetrack, empty grandstands. Unlike the top 3, the Sprint Cup, the Xfinity, and the Camp World Truck Series, when they have empty seats, most of those seats, what I am told from a couple of the track operators that I've spoken to, are already paid for, and people didn't show up, or they, in the case when you'll see in Martinsville in a couple of weeks, you'll see the banners over the seats when companies advertising those banners. They make more from those advertising of those banners over those empty seats than they would have if the seats were filled. So you look at that, you look at these things, and you got to say to yourself, as a promoter, am I going to lose my shirt tonight? See, years ago, maybe you lost your socks. You didn't lose your shirt. And you're still able to cover your expenses, pay the purses. And the way NASCAR, we're going to talk about NASCAR for a second, the way NASCAR works, that purse has to be in the bank, because especially in the top series and the touring series, that money has to be in the bank 1 week prior to the event. So if you have an $80,000 purse for, let's say, a modified tour race, that money has to be in NASCAR's hands 1 week prior, so that NASCAR, the check clears and all of that kind of good stuff. So you pull the plug and you reschedule it. Now NASCAR has that money, and nobody gets hurt by that. Years ago, you think about back in the 30s and the 40s, prior to the NASCAR sanctioning, how many teams paid their entry fee, showed up, raced, and then they go to the payoff when then the promoter went left with the money. And that's what happened to Big Bill France as a racer. Many times he didn't get his payoff, and the drivers, of course, that he raced with and against that day did not get their money as well, because these unscrupulous promoters took off with the cash. That helped him and his group of people form NASCAR. And to guarantee the purses, they guarantee the payoffs. Even some of the tracks in the weekly series, not only in NASCAR, but some of the other series as well across the country, their checks bounce. I know one track, I'm not going to say who or what it was, but I know a driver who raced at that track, or 2 drivers. One driver, his check bounced, and they told him to just hold on to it, and they would call him when it was good. Another driver won a feature event at this racetrack, and he was told that he would be credited for pit fees for the rest of the season up until he used up what he would have won. Now, it's a balance. If you won, let's say, $500 and your pit fees, let's say 50 for round numbers, that gets you into the pits 5 weeks for free. However, You have bills to pay as a race team. You have to pay your tire bill, your fuel bill, your fuel for your hauler. Getting a free pass into the pits, which isn't really free, it's your money, doesn't really work it out. So something to think about, when you hear about these races being canceled, a lot of people get all upset, oh, I can't believe it's canceled. No, they're all upset. Yet think about how you're going to feel if you drive all the way there from a far distance and you ride it out and wait it out and it doesn't happen. And then you wasted all that time and gas and maybe even a hotel room to just turn around and go home. It's happened to us a couple of times here with the 505 Racing Show. We went all the way up to Bethel Speedway and we left early because you don't know what you're going to hit traffic-wise. And we got up there way early before the gates opened. And I see Tracy from Bethel was on, I believe. And we got a phone call around 10 o'clock. Listen, we're calling the show because of rain. Don't come. And we were like just pulling onto the property. And I just wrote back, texted back, we're already here. So it's a good thing. You have to do those things as a promoter because you can't lose your shirt. You can't bring everybody in and take their money and not run an event. So anyway, so what do we got going on? We got some good stuff going on. Wheel and Modified Tour news. Longtime NASCAR wheel and team owner Bob Garbarino may not field the team for the 2016 season or the opener at the Thompson Motorsports Park for the Icebreaker. Garbarino has yet to name a driver for the Mystic Missile number 4 for 2016. Former NASCAR wheel and modified champion Todd Szegedy left the team after the 2015 season, after driving for Garbarino for only one season. Garbarino is quoted as saying, "I don't have a plan. That's all I could say now. It sounds crazy, I know, but it's the way it is." Now here's a team that's been on a modified series between the modified tour and the old series where they just raced everywhere and you name it. Bob Garbarino's done it for over 50 seasons. 50 season fielded teams. He's got championship teams. Donnie Leo won the last one, a championship for him as well. And when you look at that, a team like the Mystic Missile not having a driver, you got to ask yourself some question. Why is that? How does a team that has a good crew, has, I'm going to say, top equipment, and it's not, can't get a driver. Now, I know 22 figure, I said Jimmy Blumen is rumored to be in the 4. From what I understand and talking to my sources, he backed out. He backed out. Now, a lot of people think as a car owner, your driver shows up with a suit and a helmet and hops in and goes racing. That is not the case in this situation with the Mystic Missile number 4. To drive for Bob Garbarino, you need to bring something to the table. You need to bring a sponsor, you need to bring motors, you need to bring tires, you need to bring something to the table. It costs, and when Bob won the championship with Donnie Lee, I had spoken to him, and I said to him, Mom, you're asking, what did it cost you to run this year? And he told me it cost well over $300,000 to run 14 events on the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. And that didn't include the car, a complete run of the car. That was just weekly expenses, fuel, tires, hotels, fuel for the hauler, a couple of people that he may, pay, insurance for everything, rent at the shop. It cost them not much. And winning the championship, they won just a little over $100,000. So, it still cost them $200,000 to win a championship. So when you think about that, there's a lot of people that would love to get in that car. There was a lot of people that are rumored to be in it. But right now, I mean, the Icebreaker is only weeks away, and there's no driver. And that's kind of sad. That kind of says the state of the NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour. Teddy Christopher was rumored to get into the car as well. There have been a bunch of names, some of them from the old days, some of them unproven. But in the defense of Bob Garbarino, he's been doing this a long time. And I don't want to say he's well off, but this is what he does. He goes racing. But, when you think about it, he's been doing over 50 years, closer to 60, and he's not a young guy anymore. He's in his 70s. And, yeah, it's fun to go racing and, have a good time, but him and I have had numerous discussions over the years, and it's just not like what it used to be, but nothing is. And trying to find a driver for a top-notch team where there's so many guys out there, and gals, who could probably hop into this car and be successful, but they don't have the backing or the money that it's going to take to get in a top-notch NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour ride. So Todd Szigety stepped down. He had made an announcement. There was a press release. He was going to spend more time doing the things that he likes to do, enjoy and travel, and not be committed to a race every week or every other week, or like in the dog days of the tour from like the middle of July right to September, where you're racing some of your biggest events right in a row. And speaking of Todd Szigety, with that being said, that he was going to take more time and travel and do things he's always wanted to do. I guess he's done that because Rob Fuller Motorsports announced the return of Todd Szigety in its driver lineup for 2016. Szigety, a 19-time winner on the tour and a 2003 NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour champion, raced for Fuller in 2014. Szigety will only race select events. He's only going to race the events and the tracks that he loves and feels comfortable at, and he could win at. Nothing wrong with that. I understand that Ronnie Silk is also in the same type of deal at Fuller Motorsports. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at Fuller Motorsports. Robbie Fuller stepping down as a driver the last couple of years and letting people drive his equipment. He has good equipment. He's building his own chassis, which have been approved by NASCAR. Be interesting to see how that pans out. But I find it interesting that how Todd Szigety stepped out at the end of the 2015 season to, like I said, travel and do the things that he's missed since he's been racing all his life, to just take a few months off, and now he's going to be driving for Robbie Fuller. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Like I said, select events, who knows how that's going to turn out. Will he end up in a full-time ride? I don't know if he's looking for that. However, Robbie Fuller is trying to get his name out there, get his equipment, get top-notch drivers, get some wins under his belt, and I think you're going to see some differences with the Rob Fuller Motorsports in 2017. And speaking of tracks that postponed, the Whelen Southern Modified Tour event scheduled for the Concord Motorsports Park was postponed this past Saturday due to the forecast of rain. The event has been rescheduled for April 2nd. When we come back, we got some more news coming on the NASCAR front and some other things and stuff that went on in Fontana at Auto Club Speedway.
Hey, this is Chris Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop. 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com. For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Hey, just a note, 2 weeks from tonight, we will be celebrating episode number 250. 250 episodes. That's 5+ years on the year for the 505 on Racing Show. We have some special guest plans, some special stuff going on. It'll be a 2-part show from what I understand. So you don't want to miss that one. So put that one in your calendar, April 4th. It'll be a good one. It'll be a good one. So we have, like I said, some special guests, some stuff going on, and we'll probably have a little trivia and some giveaways and let people call in and all that kind of good stuff. So looking forward to that. You know, when I first came on board in Inravio TV or Inravio.com for the 505 on Racing Show, I thought it was just a little something we'll do for a little while, and I was a co-host with Henry Boston, and who had a lot of knowledge in this business, been around for a long time, and I thought, all right, we'll fill the seat for a little while until they get tired of me. Here I still am. I'll call it luck. Henry's moved on to other things, and I only wished him the best when he did that. And it was kind of like, it's just me. What do I do? So we're gonna have some fun with that when we come back, and maybe even we'll talk about some of the early guests that we had back in the day, and you know how primitive we were back then. We'll talk about some of those things and how we've grown, not only as a show but as a TV network on the .com system, so to speak. But anyway, looking forward to that show. Looking forward to that show. I do look forward to that show every year. I call it the anniversary show. And there's been shows that have been here longer than I have. I just like having a little anniversary show. Just a reason to have a piece of cake, you know what I mean? But anyway, according to Sirius XM on the NASCAR radio, NASCAR has reviewed the Danica Patrick walking towards the track incident after her incident with Casey Kane for a possible penalty. The rules are you do not get out of your race car until the safety crew gets there. Was her car smoking? Yeah, it was. You know, could she say that I smelled fuel? I would have bought that if she just walked away. But she walked towards the track and she gave Casey Kane one of these. And then some. She had to be escorted back to her race car. Now, you know, for those who didn't see the race, and this is what happened. She went flying by Casey Kane, and I don't know if he decided he didn't like that, he was going to give her a nudge and sent her, or he just, you know, for the air going by him, turned him a little bit. I watched the replay from a bunch of different angles that they were showing on TV, and I don't know if he did that on purpose, but you know what? They're going to make a thing out of this, and, you know, people are saying Casey Kane took her out. Now, you know, you're looking at, you know, high speeds, a fast racetrack. You don't want to be doing that. And Casey Kane's been doing this a long time, and I don't think any driver deliberately would wreck somebody to that capacity because they got passed. Maybe there was some stuff that was going on that the TV didn't see. You know, you see that sometimes. It's like when you go to your weekly track and you hear once in a while and you see, you know, car number, you know, 72 all of a sudden decides, you know, he's going to put, you know, car number 12 in the fence, and you're like, oh, what did he do to him? He didn't do nothing. But you don't know what happened 3 previous weeks. I mean, you don't know because you're not there every week. You know, quick story back in my early days back in the 70s, racing figure eight cars. Let me rephrase that. Driving figure eight cars at ISO Speedway, where it was just tough to qualify. 3 weeks in a row, a certain driver put me out. I was in his way. Was I in his way? Absolutely. A seasoned veteran driver and me, my first year. I'm like all over the place, you know, driving and not one of the fastest guys at the place. So 3 weeks in a row, I get put in the fence. All right, the first week, all right, you know what, that was definitely my fault. I was in his way. All right, we fixed the front end. We do what we got to do. Second week, it happens again. After the third week, I go to the official and I say something. And Walt Edsel, the late Walt Edsel, just said to me, well, kid, this guy will keep an eye on it. We'll watch. And even in practice that day, the guy was messing with me. So here I am, I'm like starting like 30th or 28th in a consi, you know, the non-qualifiers. I get the last 2 spots in. And of course, I'm way in the back. And this guy's in the front row, they're taking 2. And I'm cruising along, the 2 to go sign comes out, 2 flags. Ray Mortorano was the flag man then, I'll never forget it. 2 to go, and I go into turn 1 and I look in my mirror and here he comes. This guy who's been wrecking. He's leading this concert. He's going to be in the show. He's going to, you know, it's all going to be good. So I got to move over flag too a little bit, and so I go down low, and he comes down by me, and just as he passed me, I just give him one of these and send him into the fence. Now, of course, I get black flagged, and he don't make it. And we pull off the track, and he gets towed in, and as I'm driving in behind the tow truck, his wife is like grabbing me and hitting me, and he's in my face, but they never wrecked me again. Now, anybody who was there for the first time that night, they can say, look at that rookie kid, what he did to that guy. But they didn't see 3 weeks prior what he did to me. And I'm not saying that's why Casey Kane took her out. I'm not saying, I don't think he deliberately took her out. I think he just went down and they touched and she got the worst of it. But NASCAR's going to take a look at that and see what kind of penalties they're going to hand out. And, you know, it seems like that's the new thing. Just hand out penalties, you know. And that's just what it is. And Tracy from Bethel, thank you very much. It'll be show number 250. I'm pretty excited about that. But anyway, what else was going on? And Kyle Busch, he was upset and verbally upset after the Saturday Xfinity race when NASCAR failed to throw a caution for debris after Busch's right front tire failed on the last lap while leading. Austin Dillon passed Busch on the last corner to win, with Busch finishing second. Busch's quote was on the radio for the whole world to see, and hear, I should say, debris all over the track, and they don't throw a yellow. I'm just so pleased with you, NASCAR. Thank you. You all are awesome at fixing races. Whoa, you don't say that. And, you know, if you want to think that, that's, you know, as a competitor in the top series, you know, that's a conversation you have back at your shop with your crew. That's a conversation you have in your den while you're watching TV during the week. That's not something you say on the radio that you know NASCAR's monitoring, you know the TV people are monitoring, and they're going to jump all over this. So now, according to the rules in the NASCAR rulebook for the Sprint Cup Series, according to the rules, a competitor can be fined between $10,000 and $50,000 for disparaging remarks towards the sport and NASCAR's leadership. He's in trouble. There's no way you can go into the big white trailer and say, oh, I didn't say that. It's hearsay. No, it's you know, 7.2 billion people across the planet heard him say that if they were watching the event. This is one of the things. See, you know, I've had a discussion recently with somebody, you know, let the boys have at it, let them go racing. And you know what, there's going to be emotions when you're racing. There's going to be emotions. If you've never raced a race car, I can't explain to you the ups and the downs and the highs and the lows of being a race car driver. And think about yourself. Think about whatever you, let's say you're a fisherman and you got that big marlin on the thing and it's jumping up and you're pulling back and it's one of the biggest, you know, blue marlins you ever saw, and you're going to be in all the magazines and all kinds of stuff. You're going to win the tournament, and all of a sudden your line breaks. You went from here to here. You went from riding the wave to being a sunken ship. Your emotions are going to run high. You know, he's winning the race. He's going to win. He's the car to beat. The guy's got 3 wins in a row in the Xfinity Series. Loses a tire. He comes in second. Did he lose the tire because of the debris? Maybe. And you could, like I said, you could think those thoughts, but you don't say that. You don't badmouth the people who are going to judge you. It's like in any other sport. You badmouth the umpire, you badmouth the referee. The close calls aren't going your way. I used to tell people when I was, a NASCAR head guy, whatever. I used to tell people, listen, so I could give you the gray. Black and white, you're not going to get. It's black or white. But the gray, and what do I mean by that? How do you, somebody says, what do you mean by that? I'll give you the gray. If there's something that can go either way, if something that's a judgment call on my part where, you know what, the guy's trying hard, he's making it happen, yeah, I'll give him that one. Or if I've made a bad call and I've watched replays afterwards, I went up to a driver I made a really bad call against, and I went up to him in his car and I said, listen, I blew that one. I owe you one down the road. I'll give you a great one. Just one of those things, that happens. And, we're looking at the chat room, 22 figure eight. He had the same situation in his rookie season, that being wrecked on purpose by, downtown George Brown, who was a tough competitor. But, he did it back, and, it never happened again. And it's just one of those things. And, here, to trash talk like that, and I know it's out of frustration, but please, don't get me wrong. Nobody gets more frustrated than me sometimes. And I'm mellow now compared to where I was, 30 years ago, even 20 years ago, even 5 years ago. But your emotions are riding. You've been racing for 3-4 hours. You're hot as the dickens, and here you got to win, and then all of a sudden, bam, you're deflated. Second, I would have been happy finishing second. But you know what? When you've won, and the driver that drove for me once, he said to me, he goes, when you've got the taste of winning, second isn't good. And I never understood that, because as a driver, I've understood that as a car owner and racing champ karts with my daughter, and I know what that's like, where you're there to win. You got the best equipment, you got a darn good driver, you're there to win. And I understood it as an owner, but I never understood that as a driver. Sometimes qualifying to me was like a win back in the day. Sometimes being able to run up front was like being a champion. But NASCAR's gonna hit him hard with this one. They're gonna hit him hard, and I don't know. He's the guy that he's the guy that wins a lot of races, and you don't say that stuff. You don't say that. It's just I don't know. And Busch Hill also faces potential penalties for not reporting to the media center as the runner-up. Now, when you're the runner-up in a race, you are required to go to the media center. I believe it's the top 3 for the press, TV, sponsors. You're required to go. Now, failure to do that falls under that 12-4A rule, actions detrimental to racing, failing to follow a directive of a NASCAR official, not going to the media. And I'm sure that they didn't just sit in the media room, let's wait for him. They sent somebody down, I am sure, to get him. I know there was an event or two that I had to go get that competitor, and the guy says, I forgot, I never finished in the top 3. And you bring him to the media center. And there's gonna be some problems here. NASCAR's gonna have some decisions to make on Tuesday at the competitors meeting, and they're gonna have to decide, like Danica, she's done this before. You don't get out of your race car, and like I said, if she comes and says to them, look, I smelled gasoline, I didn't know, and the smoke, and I didn't know it was on fire, and she got out, that's fine. But if she would have walked towards the safety crew or the safety equipment or the opposite way of the track, then I got to, hey, you know what? She did the right thing. But she went out to the apron. You don't do that. And, and I'm thinking this is her second or third time doing that. And, There needs to be a penalty, and not just dollars and cents. These teams are operating on multi-million-dollar budgets. So you tell somebody they're fined $50,000 for doing that and put on probation to the end of the year. You know what? Here, my checkbook. Let me write. Here you go. But you got to hurt these competitors when they do stupid stuff. You got to hurt them where it hurts. And race car drivers want to drive. And you know what? You're not driving this week. Take the week off. There's nothing worse than that as a driver, getting suspended as a driver. Been there, done that many times. And in the late Kenny Hyde and I, we joked about when we got suspended from our little antics at Riverhead Raceway. It was 10 years ago. And the hardest part of that is we had to sit in the grandstands with our kids. Kenny was there with his kids, Kenny Jr., who's a figure eight champion here in Long Island, and Kim. I was there with my girls, and Daddy, I have to go to the bathroom. How do you do that? But that was the worst part. My wife and his wife, they're in the pits, whooping it up, having a good time. But here we were, sitting in the grandstands. I don't even know why I went to the track that week. But you got to stop parking people. Points, yeah, you take the points away. You can make points up. You got to get lucky, and you got to be really good at that. But if you park somebody, you park a competitor. I know NASCAR don't like to do it because of sponsors and upsetting their sponsors, but hey, talk to your competitor. Talk to your driver. Your driver did this. We didn't. The rules say this is what could happen. And every driver, when they sign in, that means they've read the rule book. If you read that, if anybody's ever read that big piece of paper that you sign, when you get to the racetrack, it says all these kind of things that you can and can't do. And one of the things it says in here, you will abide by the rules in the rule book. The rule book says you don't do that. You know what the rules, that means you've read it. I have read the rules and blah, 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 I understand that. Anyway, it'd be interesting to see how that pans out with the Danica, Casey Kane. Maybe they're going to say he deliberately wrecked her, and Bush for his harsh words towards NASCAR, or not going to the media center. That's big. Anyway, we'll talk more about that when we come back.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Rich Willett. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you get punched in the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
For over 60 years, Hanson Carpet has put the customer first, providing only the finest quality products and service. And Hanson Carpet is so much more than just carpet. We also carry a wide selection of window blinds and shades, and our licensed and insured technicians can service any of your flooring or window covering needs. Browse our huge selection of laminate, carpet, linoleum, vinyl, and tile. Stop by our showroom today or visit HansonCarpet.com. No matter what your project, Hanson Carpet has got you covered. The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Welcome back. Hey, Justin, it looks like Audi, the car, will be joining NASCAR in 2017 in the Xfinity Series and possibly in 2018 in the Cup Series. Audi. That's opening the door for BMW, Volkswagen, and all those other foreign car makers. I mean, NASCAR's grassroots America, man. And I guess these other car makers want to be a part of that because of what appears to be the growing popularity in NASCAR, moving forward. And the old win on Sunday, sell on Monday. I mean, we let Toyota in with the Camry. All right, it's been a while. Okay, let's keep it that way. Ford, GM, get the Dodges, but Audi, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a business. It's a business, and I'm sure I don't think Brian France went to the boardroom at Audi and said, "Why don't you guys prepare a car to come drive with us?" Because it's got to be a stock production car appearance. So now Audi, I'm sure you're going to see, if you haven't seen already, is going to have a car that's going to fit the specs body-wise of a NASCAR Sprint Cup or Xfinity car, I should say. And you know what happens? Once it goes in Xfinity, it's in Cup, and I think you're going to see that in 2018. It sounds so far away, but it's really not. Because if these discussions are going on, there's been some secret tests somewhere, And, 22 figure eight, NASCAR is, as you're saying, NASCAR is trying to get its fans Audi. Yeah, I mean, come on. Go back to the 50s. It was every manufacturer in America had a car in these races. And some of these races back in the 50s at the bigger tracks started 50, 60 cars. And the car, whatever was made back then, see, they were stock cars. Why were they called stock cars? Because you went to the showroom, you went to the dealership, you pulled the car stock off the showroom. And the rules, I was just looking at rules from back in those days. You had to have a stock dashboard, everything had to be intact. The windows, believe it or not, had to be cranked down. It's in the rule book. You couldn't run with your windows up. You had to crank them down. Now, I'm reading this, I'm like, huh? This still has the glass all in it? The headlights had to be taped over. And I'm like, that's a stock car? Yeah, did Lee Petty play some games with suspension and stuff like that? Absolutely. You don't win as many races as the Pettys did back in those days without doing something. I'm not saying they broke the rules. I'm saying they looked at the rules, like the late Bobby Lane, great racer here on Long Island, who drove anything with a motor and four wheels, said to me, when you look at a sheet of rules, and there's, he said, how many lines you see on there? Oh, 24. Well, I see 48. And read between the lines. And that's what the Pettys did back then. But they were stock cars. They drove these cars to the racetrack and hoped you didn't get wrecked because you had to drive it home. So here we are going to now add another manufacturer in 2017. Going to be in the top series possibly in 2018. That's just going to open the door. It's going to be all makes and models. And part of that is, there's a lot of these cars now were built in America. So does that make it an American-made car? I don't know. I don't think so. But that's what we're going to see. We're going to see Audis. And aerodynamically, I think they're pretty well suited for the Camaros and the Mustangs that are racing in the Xfinity Series now. It'd be interesting to see what kind of car they put together if they go into the Cup Series in 2018. NASCARs are changing, boys and girls. NASCAR's changing. And it remains to be seen if it's for the better. A lot of people are giving it this. Some people are giving it this. But the purists, those of us who've been around this sport for 40 or 50 years, like thumbs down to this thing. Go back to, the cars looking like exactly the way they do in the showroom. Yeah, did the measurements match up? Trust me, I was in the R&D center. They had the stock production car and the race car next to it, and the lines lined up. The heights didn't and that, but it matched. But if you don't have decals on some of these noses and tails, you can't really tell what they are. You look at the old Buicks that Bobby Allison drove back in the 70s. That was a Buick. You knew it. You knew it. Richard Petty had that Dodge, right? You knew it was his. The Fords, of the Wood brothers, you knew that was a Ford. But, put these cars out there in primer with no emblems on them, you'd be hard-pressed. You'd be hard-pressed to pick out what's up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in 2017. And I'll tell you what, it'll be here before you know it. It'll be here before you know it. Also, just a little trivial note that I found today. Jack Roush, owner of Roush Fenway Racing, say that 3 times fast. I was doing a little research. I was trying to look at some stuff to talk about. And Jack Roush, for those who don't know, is the winningest owner in NASCAR history. All combined, he has 322 wins as an owner and 8 championships. He's got 135 Sprint Cup Series wins as an owner, 137 Xfinity wins as an owner, which is a record, and 50 Truck Series wins, which is also a record. That's a lot of victories. Now, I met Jack Roush personally. Back in the mid-'90s, I was working down in High Point, Greensboro, North Carolina. I was down there for about a year, and I had a lot of free time. So I went to the Petty Museum. This is how this is. I went to the Richard Petty Museum over there in Level Cross, where it was at the time, and it was nice, and I was the only person in the place. It was just me. It was the middle of the day, middle of the week type of thing, and the woman at the desk who signed me, and I'll never forget, her name was Dottie Payne. And I was there probably, I don't know, hours. She actually got me into the garage, which is nobody goes in the Petty garage. And they were preparing one of Kyle's cars. They were putting the decals on the 43, but preparing one of Kyle's cars. And they let me in there for a little while, even let me take a couple of pictures. And when I was leaving, she said, listen, if you got time, you should go over to Jack Roush's shop. And I said, really? She goes, yeah, they have a nice tour there. All right, ask for this person, tell them I sent you. Okay, so I go. Big building, I pull up, I walk in, and I'm going to the lobby, and a woman said, can I help you? I said, yeah, Dottie from Petty. Oh, she called and said you were coming. All right, you'll take the tour, just go through that door. So I'm thinking I'm going to go through a door, and there's other people. So I open the door, I go through, and I look around. There's a guy working on a car. I go back, I said, did I go in the right door? No, you went in the right door. It's a self-guided tour. Ask questions. Our employees will be more than happy to answer. So by the time I got to the 3rd guy, this man's coming towards me. I'm saying to myself, that looks like Jack Roush. Comes up, introduces me. Now, I was dressed nice. I was, dressed the way I am now, at least from the waist up. And he took me around, and he had his shop foreman and come and take me around. And Mark Martin was driving the 6 car, and the car was in a bad wreck, and he had gotten hurt, and he showed me what injured him in the car and how they have to make some changes. And he took me to the back and some of the wrecked cars and what they do with them. I was in that shop for the whole day, Jack Roush, and it was really, the guy is a gentleman. And then one time at Martinsville, I had gone up to him and I said, Jack, I said, that day I was in your shop, I never got a picture with you. Can I get a picture with you? So my friend was with me and he goes, yeah, sure. So he takes the picture and he says to me, don't move. And he goes over to my friend, whispers in their ear, and he comes back and they take the picture again. and everybody's laughing. I don't know what the joke is. Well, I get my pictures out because, you know, it was an old camera type. It was a throwaway camera. I didn't have none of that digital stuff. I'm not techie. I took the film to the store, got the pictures developed, and all of a sudden I'm looking at the pictures, and the first picture, I'm not in the picture, and their finger is over the lens. And Jack saw that, attention to detail. He saw that, and he made them take the picture over again. And that's the kind of guy he is. And that's an impressive thing. I mean, he's got more than Hendrick. He's the winningest team owner. Now, I'm thinking Hendrick is pretty close, and I'm going to look that up for the next time, you know, see what Hendrick's got in the way of wins and stuff. But I'm thinking Hendrick has more championships, but I know he doesn't have more wins. So interesting to see how that works out, because I think Hendrick is just under 300 victories as a team owner, but I think he's got like 12 or 13 championships to his credit. So unbelievable. And of course we know Petty Enterprises. Not all of Richard Petty's wins were with Petty Enterprises. I believe that he had 5 wins driving for somebody else, and I believe that was Mike Curb Records back in the day. So anyway, interesting little trivial stuff that we got going on. Anyway, what else we got? Brian Vickers will be in the 14 car, Tony Stewart's car in Martinsville, 1 year after announcing he would miss the remaining of the season due to recurrence of the blood clots he was experiencing. Vickers announced he will drive Tony Stewart's Chevy at Martinsville. Vickers would be splitting the duties with Ty Dillon, but no word has been put as to who will drive the 14 beyond Martinsville. Brian Vickers had the blood clot issue, and for those who are not familiar with that, you know, you get these blood clots. When you bump yourself and get a bruise, that's you know, I'm not a doctor, but that's, you know, you've bruised some vessels, and if your blood doesn't clot, you'll bleed to death. And I mean that really serious. So and I know a driver who couldn't drive because they were on blood thinners, and if they would have got bumped in the head or bumped in the race car, they could have perished. So, you know, that's a serious thing. So, and I'm sure the doctors have cleared him. He's good to go. And, you know, Brian Vickers, he's a tough competitor and a good competitor. And it's good to see him and Tony Stewart, covering for Tony Stewart. And speaking of Tony Stewart has been cleared to become cleared to start rehabilitation and getting himself ready. The jury is still out as to if and when Tony will come back. You know, an L1 fracture. He's very lucky that L1 fracture was only vertebrae and did not do anything to the spinal cord. Because we would have been talking a different story. Instead of, you know, when is he going to come back? It was, you know, nice knowing you type of thing. But it's good to see that Tony's on the road to recovery. I like Tony Stewart. A lot of people don't. I like what he stands for. I like that he's very boisterous and very open, and he doesn't shoot from the hip. He knows his facts and he talks. And like I said, I think I said once before on the show, I had the opportunity when he drove at New Hampshire Motor Speedway with the Whelen Modified Tour to have a one-on-one drivers meeting with him because he missed our drivers meeting because he was practicing the Sprint Cup car. And he just stood there and he hung on to every word that I said, like staring me in the eyes, like, And I had my girls with me, and they were just sitting down, and they were like, you know, they were all staring at him. But I think Tony Stewart is a gentleman. I think he's an intelligent businessman, and he knows what he's doing. And Stewart Haas Racing will be around for a long time, even beyond his driving days. We'll have the Fontana finishes when we come back.
What's up, guys? We're Scared No Fair, and we're here with Inravio. If they catch you at a show with one of these bracelets, you will win $100.
That's a lot of money.
So get a bracelet.
Do whatever it takes to get that. Hit them up online.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there. And we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
It's always been important to us to have music a part of our lives, part of our children's lives. At Village Music Shop, Bonnie and Chuck have not only made it possible for our kids to learn and understand and read music and enjoy playing a musical instrument, but they've also made it fun.
I really like coming here. I like coming to Village Music because everybody here is nice.
And they've inspired some creativity and imagination and taught them discipline. And along the way, they've gotten some self-confidence, really been like a part of our family.
Welcome back. Fontana, tough place, fast. But the Xfinity was there, and Austin Dillon muscled his way past Kyle Busch coming off the fourth corner to take the victory there with Kyle Busch limping across the line second. Darrell Wallace Jr. Went from like sixth to third because we had some teams running out of gas, finishing third. Daniel Suarez finished fourth from the pole. Elliott Sadler fifth. Kevin Harvick was sixth. Brendan Gaughan seventh. Kyle Larson was eighth. Brendan Jones ninth. And Justin Allgaier rounding out the top 10. Kyle Busch was really upset about the debris. We talked about that earlier. Again, you keep those thoughts to yourself, or you go later on and say, hey, can I talk to you? And you do it that way. And again, I know it was out of frustration, and I totally understand that. So that's what happened with Xfinity. In the Cup Series, Jimmy Johnson was the winner, his 77th Sprint Cup Series win, followed by Kevin Harvick. And I'll tell you what, on that last lap, that green and white checker, he motored past Harvick like he was stopped for coffee. I'm like, wow, you know, and sporting the Superman logo on his car, you know, pushing that film. Kevin Harvick, like I said, second. Denny Hamlin, third. Joey Logano was fourth, followed by Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in fifth. Chase Elliott, sixth. He's having an awesome season. Carl Edwards, seventh. A.J. Allmendinger back in the top 10, eighth. Brad Keselowski, ninth. Jamie McMurray, 10th. And Austin Dillon from the pole finished 24th. You know, it's one of my things with some of these bigger tracks, and they're going all out. You need more cautions. I know people are like, what? Because that's the only time they race. Once they get spread out, it's a parade. It's, you know, who's just riding around, especially the like lap, 20 to like 170, 75. They're just trying to stay in the lead lap. Save the equipment, watch their fuel mileage, and they race the last 15, 20 laps, especially on a track like that. I can't wait I love Martinsville. I love the short tracks. The beating and the banging that's going to be going on, and just good, hard racing. But you get to these I call it a super speedway, when you get to these big tracks where the aero is important, it's not fun to watch. It's not fun to watch on TV. Different live. Just like, playing. I could not sit and watch golf. I'd be like this. I mean, I go like that with races too. When I play golf, it's a whole different thing. It's a whole different mindset. But to watch some of these races, and the announcers, and everybody badmouths the announcers, some of them, oh, Michael Waltrip, Dow Waltrip, they should go do something else. You know what? They're being paid to do a job that a lot of other people would love to have. And they must be doing something right because they have the job and we don't. So it's tough to announce something that's boring. You got to agree with it. Some of these races on TV, it's boredom. They're just showing the leaders. They're not showing the slicing and dicing that's going in the middle of the pack to the back of the pack. If they're in the top 5, top 6, those guys are getting the TV time. The folks working away. If somebody's goes to the back and they're working their way back up, that guy will get some TV time. But when you see these big track races, other than you're waiting for the big one at Talladega, they're not exciting to watch. And I think with the new aero package, it's gotten better. With the new rules package, it's gotten better. More downforce. You put the drive back into the driver's hand, which in some cases, some of these drivers are having a problem with that. Some of these guys, and I've said this, the new element, the new regime, the new kid on the block racing, they've never really had to muscle a race car. They've never had to drive and steer it with the gas pedal. If the car ain't perfect, and when I say perfect, you could hear some of these guys on the radio, because when I go to these races, I have 100 channels and every driver is in my scanner. And I just have it scanned, and you hear, I feel a small vibration. What am I going to do? What are you going to do? You can drive the car. Oh, I got a little bit of a push. Okay, so maybe change your line, maybe go in a little different, maybe come out a little bit loose, steer it with the gas pedal. These young drivers today never had an experience. A lot of these guys and gals never, I shouldn't say never, don't have the experience, years experience on their weekly short tracks, because, how do I say this without upsetting people? Because they just haven't, all right? And it seems like the guys with the money, they get the rides, and the guys who are talented still mire in the weekly series, or the touring series. Anyway, we're gonna get ready to wrap up. I know there's not a lot of racing going on this upcoming weekend with the holiday, so wherever your endeavors are going to bring you, and my endeavors are going to bring me is my son, my oldest son, is retiring from the United States Army, Sergeant First Class, and 20 years. And I am going to go down to the base for the ceremony and the reception. The U.S. Army has asked me to give a little talk about my son, and nobody's more prouder than that than I am. I got a nice gift for him, and I'm looking forward to it. But wherever your endeavor is going to bring you, please be safe, please be happy. Give somebody a hug, tell them you love them. God bless you all, and we'll see you next week.